What is your happiest memory?
Getting married.
Yeah?
Yeah. She went to Florida. I went down and we did all the marital work in Florida, and then we went to Georgia because she was just a kid yet.
I was 18.
18. And we heard that in Georgia you could get married at 18, so we went to one county and they said, nope, have to be older than 18, and they told us what county to go to.
Yeah, they told us where we could go.
So we went there and got married and headed home.
Tell me a little bit about how you two met.
So
What was that?
How you met, Grandpa?
Oh.
well, the first time I met her, I was in the 6th grade, right?
Yeah.
First time I met her.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We went to school together. We were in the same grade.
And at the end of our senior year, we started dating. So she looked them all over and thought, well, I guess he'll do. You have that on yet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you started dating. So you were 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all through high school. You were friends, or were you friends before you started dating?
Well, we had a small class, so we only had 28 students in our class. So everybody knew each other, and
It really, you don't.
but there were, you know, it's like any school. You get your friends and you sort of stick with them. I wasn't in his group, if that's what you mean.
Well, how'd you start dating then? Did he ask you to be his girlfriend?
Yeah, he asked me to go to the prom, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we went prom together.
we walked around the floor because neither one of us knew how to dance.
So how long did you date before he asked you to marry him?
Let's see, that was the same year, wasn't it? At Christmas time.
Yeah, because it would have been Christmas
Yeah,
time.
he wrapped up a watch. He bought me a watch, or no, he bought me a ring.
Yeah, I bought you a ring. I thought
And he wrapped it up in newspaper, but he made it real fancy. Like he went and not shred, but he fanned cuttings in the newspaper, you know, and made them curl and stuff like that on the outside, and so he had his mark on it.
So you studied with Jehovah's Witnesses for a year?
before we're
Well,
saying.
we studied with them. We never really got involved that much to where we went out and called on people, you know, in their homes like they do. My sister, she continued to invite us to go to her church, visit with her at the church. Well, I did a couple times, but Grandpa didn't. And then when they were having some special meetings at their church, they wanted us to come.
She had talked to her deacons about us, and they agreed to come out and talk with us. And so he said that we would do it. And I felt that nobody knew any more about the Bible than me, because I never met anybody who knew more about the Bible than me. And they come out and they really challenged us. So, and when they left, they wanted to know how we felt about it. And I told them I feel like walking 20 miles because I was so confused.
These two men that came to visit us, this one man, when he talked about Jesus, he just would stand up and tears would come in his eyes when he was witnessing to us. And we said, well, we never saw Jehovah's Witness look like that, you know, when they had to be so serious about what they believed. But he just casually talked to us and told us how the Lord helped them in their lives and stuff like that. And they showed us scripture from the Bible and explained things. And one of the things he explained so well that I never forgot was about, in the Bible, it told about all of these snakes that was in the, you know, the people in the Old Testament, how they did something and these snakes got in their camp, and how they turned to the Lord, and so the Lord told Moses to make this snake and put it on a big pole and tell the people that if they got bit by a snake, that all they had to do was look at the snake on the pole and believe. If they will believe and look at the snake on this pole, that they'll be saved. They won't die from that snake bite. And I've never forgotten that. And then he likened it to Christ being lifted up on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look to him, he'll save you,
Mm-hmm.
So he made his impressions on me, and that was like, when we went to church that night, I just got up and walked after the message, and I went up front, and I knelt down in front of the pastor that was preaching. And this lady come, and she got me and told me, she said, I would like to talk to you if you'd like me to. And so I said, sure. And I went with her. She took me in another room, and she explained salvation and everything to me again. And then she asked me if I wanted to be saved, and I said yes. And so we prayed, and then it was shortly after that one of the deacons that saw him out there walking around.
I went looking for her. I was walking
Yeah,
up
he
front.
was looking for me, and the deacon.
It wasn't Deacon, it was a woman.
Huh?
It was a woman.
Oh, it was another woman?
Yep.
Oh, so she brought him to the room where I was. And when he come in, she said, oh, did you come to be saved too? He said, I don't know what I came for. So he came over, and she says, well, come on over and sit down and we'll talk about it. And she went through the salvation and made sure he understood everything, and he accepted the Lord too. So that was a wonderful thing about it. And that built a stronger love between us too, because we had the Lord in our life, and we had to love the Lord and love him, love each other,
Mm-hmm.
because he wants us to do that in the scriptures.
Would you say that was your most meaningful accomplishment?
Yes.
What?
Our children.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Grandpa?
I would too. Changed our lives. They had a Bible study that we got involved in. This is First Baptist Church of Niles, Ohio. It was about 15, 17 miles from us. And got baptized, and they encouraged us to join a church that was about 2 miles from us, Cortland Baptist Church. And so we started going there. And from there, we went off to college for Bible training, and was there 5 years. I was real study person. I took that of a 4-year course in 5 years. So. Shaking her head.
Tell about your reading.
Oh, my reading. Pastor Marsteller and I were walking the sidewalks one night because where his meeting was in town, and it was a nice evening. And he said something about to me going to college, and I told him I wouldn't be able to because I couldn't read. And he said, well, we'll have to do something about it. So his wife volunteered if I would buy her a reading, was it 3-hour reading program?
Something like that.
Yeah, that she would tutor me for a year. So that's what we did.
She was an English teacher anyway, so
So she tutored me for a year, and then we went off to Bible school. We were known in the college by our 3 little ones.
And who were those?
Terry and Janie and Lorraine. And we're there 5 years, and I took that 4-year course. And in the end of my junior year, little church 60 miles from us, I was in class with a kid that was from there, and he wanted to know if I would preach on a Sunday, and I said, yeah. So he had me come I think it was that Sunday or the next Sunday. And so I went and preached, and then we met again in our lit class. I didn't really like that class, but that's all right. And he asked if I'd come back and candidate. So we went back and candidated, and they called us that night. And we were there almost 10 years. So, and my wife was my secretary, and she didn't do much to help. She typed a lot of my papers, and I found out just recently that she went down in Florida, she applied for a job, and she was typing 80 words a minute. So I didn't know that. So she did a good job on my papers.
Well, I took summer classes when I could, and we had a babysitter that came, and that was real helpful for me to be able to serve in the church a lot better. But having little kids, you couldn't get away that much, so summer was the best time for me to go, even though it was very you had to do so much, in that time that you were there for classes, but I really enjoyed that.
Tell me a little bit about your calling to ministry. So you were both saved, and so it sounded like you had strong influences in your life that kind of encouraged you or asked if you were interested. But tell me about that personal calling and how you felt that God was leading you to become a minister and a minister's wife.
Yeah. Well, I think the Marstellers were a big influence on our lives.
They were our pastors.
They had just gotten out of Bible school, and we were the first church that he had, right?
Yeah.
And we became really, really close friends.
In our first year, they had a building committee, and I worked with them on that and come up with a plan. And we put an addition on the front, which would be like a foyer coming in, and put a basement under the church that would give access to the basement. And we put a bathroom in, and did some remodeling inside the church. And and another thing we did at that time is we put a heating system in, hot water heating system, and got rid of the oil burner that was in the back corner of the auditorium. So they got modern. But it was a nice little building. I always liked it. It would seat comfortably probably about 60 and maybe 70. I thought I'd do 70 in it, wouldn't it? Yeah. And so that's where we found ourselves. Their constitution for the church and bylaws is one sheet of paper with one corner taken up with a picture of the church. It was front and back. And so there wasn't really that much that in it. You could be a Methodist and belong to a Methodist church and yet belong to the church there. So they didn't have really any good denominational, teaching. So we started a missionary, ladies missionary covered, which really did a lot for missionaries. And what else did we had special speakers in. We had Milo Thompson twice. Once he spoke on the ecumenical movement, which we needed. And I can't remember what he spoke on the second time. So we had missionaries in. With the fellowshipping churches, we used to get missionary conferences together where we'd bring in about 3 missionaries because we had 3 churches. And we would share a missionary conference together, which was a blessing. Many of the missionaries would comment on it because we weren't running them all over the neighborhood, from church to church, but we worked it so they weren't on the run all the time. And so we had a good introduction to missions. That church was doing well and giving to missions. When I think of Walton, with my experience going in there, knowing nothing, only knew that I was saved and baptized, and seeking to serve the Lord. And when I see what the Lord did there, it's probably one of our trophies as a Christian.
Mhm.
The Lord was good to us. Then we left from there to Pine Valley. So we was there 5 years. And after that, we went into missions, home missions. We went to rescue work in Ohio. I was there 5 years. And from there, we went to Albion. And we were in Albion 8 years and was able to see a work get started up there, which still doing okay today.
Mhm.
So, and after that, at 8 years, we semi-retired, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
We come back here. We had a problem. All of our kids were here. So all but Becky, huh?
Children are all grown. We have had 9 children, and we have 48 grandchildren, and we have I forget how many great grandchildren. They're in the 30s, but I don't know for sure. We love them all. It's very heavy.
This is your Bible?
Dr. Jeremiah.
Do you have a favorite verse?
Yeah, well, I can't remember. Right.
Proverbs.
Yeah, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths.
Romans 12, 1 and 2. I beseech ye, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto the Lord, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might prove what is the acceptable and perfect will of God.